The official story is a lie. A small, insignificant meteor landed in Panama. The truth is far more disturbing. A local man found the rock, a bizarre object that pulsed with a faint inner light and hummed with an energy he could feel in his bones. He cracked it open, expecting to find rare crystals or minerals. He found neither. Instead, what crawled out defied every known law of biology. This is the story of the living meteorite, a secret so guarded that the scientists who studied it have now gone silent, and the creature itself has vanished from the face of the earth. What was inside the stone? Many people are crazy about the idea of finding a meteorite. It's like holding a piece of another world in your hands, a visitor from the vast, dark ocean of space. But not all things are what they seem. You see, most of the time, these rocks are just that, ancient, lifeless stones made of iron and nickel. They are valuable, they are scientifically important, but they are dead. What happened in the dense, humid jungle of Panama's Darien province was something else entirely. This wasn't just a rock, and what was inside was not dead. It all started with a sound that no one was supposed to hear. On a Tuesday morning, a farmer named Alejandro Rojas was tending to a small plot of land. It was a day like any other, hot and still, the air thick with the sound of insects. Then came the noise. It wasn't the loud boom of an explosion, but a sharp, high-pitched scream that tore through the sky, a sound like tearing metal that lasted for about 10 seconds. It was followed by a heavy thud in the jungle a few hundred yards away. Alejandro, a man who had lived his entire life in this wilderness, knew this was not a normal sound. It wasn't an animal, and it wasn't a falling tree. Curiosity got the better of him. He ventured into the thick undergrowth, following the path of broken branches and trampled leaves. There, in a small, newly formed crater about 5 feet wide, was the source of the noise. It was a rock, roughly the size of a car battery, and it was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was jet black, but not like coal. This blackness seemed to drink the light, making it look like a hole in the fabric of the jungle. The surface was strangely smooth, almost polished, with faint geometric patterns that looked like cracks but were perfectly flush with the surface. The thing nobody tells you about meteorites is that they are usually covered in what's called a fusion crust, a rough, melted layer from their fiery plunge through the atmosphere. This one was different. It was almost perfectly smooth, and it was warm, humming with a low, barely audible vibration that he could feel through the soles of his boots. What many overlooked in stories like this is the first human instinct. Curiosity mixed with a little bit of greed. Alejandro thought he had found something valuable. He managed to heave the rock, which weighed a surprising 75 pounds, out of the crater and onto a makeshift sled. Over the next 2 days, he tried to open it. A normal rock would have cracked under the blows from his sledgehammer, but this one barely showed a scratch. The hammer just bounced off with a dull thud. Frustrated, he tried a drill, but the hardened steel bit couldn't even make a mark. It was as if the rock was made of something far harder than any metal on Earth. This is where the story takes a turn into the truly bizarre. On the third day, Alejandro noticed something new. One of the faint geometric lines on the rock's surface was glowing with a soft blue light. The low humming had also gotten slightly louder, more rhythmic. It was almost like a heartbeat. That night, a powerful thunderstorm rolled through the region. A bolt of lightning struck a tree near his shed where he was keeping the rock. There was a brilliant flash, and all the power in his small home went out. When he went to check on the rock, he found it had changed. The single glowing blue line had spread across the entire surface, tracing all the geometric patterns. And in the center of the rock, a hairline fracture had appeared, leaking a thick, dark gel. The rock was opening on its own. Over the next hour, he watched in stunned silence as the fracture widened, not with a crack, but with a smooth, silent separation like a door swinging open. And from the darkness within, something crawled out. It was not an insect. It was not a reptile. It was something that shouldn't exist. What crawled out of the void? The thing that emerged from the meteorite was about the size of a human hand. Its body was a shifting, semi-translucent material that seemed to ripple with internal, bioluminescent light. It had no discernible head, no eyes, and no limbs in the traditional sense. Instead, it moved by extending and retracting glistening, crystalline tendrils that pulled it forward with a silent, fluid grace. The creature seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to focus on, like a shadow come to life. As it moved across the floor of the shed, it left no trail, no slime, nothing. It was utterly alien. To put it mildly, Alejandro was terrified. He did the only thing he could think of. He recorded it. For about 90 seconds, he captured a shaky video on his old cell phone showing the impossible creature slowly exploring his shed before it retreated back into the waiting, open halves of the meteorite. That 90-second clip would soon become the most sought-after and most dangerous piece of footage on the planet. The next morning, Alejandro tried to tell people in the village what he had seen. They thought he was crazy, that he had been drinking, but he had the video. He showed it to his cousin, who sent it to a friend who posted it on a small local online forum. Within 12 hours, everything changed. A convoy of unmarked black vehicles, the kind you only see in movies, rolled into the village. Men in clean, sterile-looking uniforms, speaking English and Spanish, cordoned off Alejandro's farm. They weren't from the Panamanian government, they were something else. They confiscated the rock, the creature inside it, and every electronic device in the house, including the phone with the original video. Alejandro and his family were taken for questioning and held for a week. When they returned, they were told in no uncertain terms that they had seen nothing more than an unusual rock formation and a trick of the light. They were warned that spreading false stories would have severe consequences. The event was officially erased, but the video was already out. Though the original was quickly scrubbed from the internet, copies had been made. It became a piece of digital folklore, a ghost on the web, and it caught the attention of a small, independent group of scientists who managed to analyze the few clear frames. What they found was so shocking it bordered on unbelievable. The wow factor was off the charts. The creature's cellular structure, visible in a few magnified shots, was not based on carbon. The analysis suggested it was silicon-based with a crystalline structure that should be rigid, but instead it was fluid and adaptable. This is the basis for life that science fiction has dreamed about for a century, but it has never been observed in reality. The thing nobody tells you is what this truly means. A silicon-based life form would be incredibly resilient. It wouldn't need water or oxygen to survive. It could theoretically thrive in the vacuum of space and withstand extreme temperatures and radiation. The meteorite wasn't a tomb that it was trapped in, it was a vehicle. The creature was a passenger. Further analysis of its movement showed that it was incredibly efficient. Its crystalline tendrils appeared to grip surfaces at a molecular level, allowing it to move with no wasted energy. More disturbingly, the patterns of its internal bioluminescent lights were not random. They pulsed in complex, repeating sequences. It wasn't a mindless amoeba, it was processing information, it was thinking. The meteorite hadn't brought a simple space microbe to Earth. It had delivered something far more advanced, something that had been awake and aware for its entire journey. This creature's biology was a direct challenge to everything we thought we knew about life. A message or a weapon? Once the initial shock of the Panama event began to settle in the hidden corners of the scientific community, the questions started. And they were terrifying. If this creature was real, and the evidence suggested it was, then what was it? And why was it here? The simplest theory, and perhaps the most comforting, was that this was a natural phenomenon. It was an extreme example of what scientists call panspermia, the idea that life can be seeded between planets and even stars by traveling on meteorites. Maybe somewhere out there in the galaxy there is a planet where silicon-based life evolved naturally. An asteroid impact could have launched a piece of that planet into space, and this little creature or its ancestors were lucky enough to survive the journey. But not all things are what they seem. The meteorite itself argued against this theory. Its smooth, almost engineered surface and the strange geometric patterns were not natural. And natural objects don't hum with a rhythmic energy or open themselves in response to an electrical charge. This led to a second, more unsettling theory. The meteorite wasn't a rock, it was a purpose-built vessel, a biological probe. An advanced alien civilization might have sent these seeds of life across the galaxy, either to study how they adapt to new environments or, more altruistically, to intentionally seed barren worlds with life. The creature wasn't a refugee from a cosmic accident, it was a colonist, an interstellar Johnny Appleseed. This would make it one of the most profound discoveries in human history. But there is a third theory, a much darker one. What if the creature wasn't a colonist, but an invader? What many overlooked was its behavior. It explored its new environment, but it did so cautiously, almost like a scout. It didn't consume anything. It didn't interact. It simply observed and then retreated to the safety of its vessel. What if this was just the first one? You see, if you can send one, you can send thousands, even millions. An advanced civilization could launch a fleet of these biological probes at a target planet. The creatures could be designed to act as terraforming engines, slowly changing the planet's atmosphere and ecosystem to suit their masters. Or they could be a weapon, a biological agent designed to eradicate native life forms to clear the way for a future colonization. The thing nobody tells you is that a weapon doesn't have to be a bomb. It can be slow, silent, and biological. This is where we have to talk about the things that people in power are not telling us. The Panama event is not an isolated incident. In the past decade, there have been over a dozen confirmed meteorite falls that have been immediately classified and whisked away by secretive government agencies. In 2017, a meteorite that landed in Siberia was reported by locals to be glowing from the inside. The official report called it a chemical reaction. In 2021, a strange organic-rich meteorite in Argentina was taken by a private aerospace corporation before any university could study it. Are these all just coincidences? Or are we in the middle of a slow, silent arrival that is being deliberately kept from the public? The creature from Panama proves that something that shouldn't exist does, and it came from out there. So here we are. We're left with a 90-second video, a handful of eyewitnesses who have been scared into silence, and 1,000 questions. Many people watching this are probably wondering, if this is all true, why isn't it on the news? Why haven't the world's governments made an announcement? The hard truth is, how could they? This isn't a story about finding tiny microbes on Mars. This is a story about a complex, intelligent, and completely alien life form arriving on our doorstep. An announcement of this magnitude wouldn't just be a news story, it would be the event that changes human society forever. It would challenge the foundations of religion, science, and our very sense of place in the universe. The thing is, this isn't a movie. There's no script for telling 8 billion people that we are not alone and that our new neighbor is a creature that defies the laws of physics. Let's talk down to earth for a minute. What are we, the public, supposed to think? We are being told one story, that meteorites are just rocks, while the facts and the leaks point to something far stranger. Does it make sense that a rock from space would open like a futuristic pod? Is it a coincidence that every time one of these strange meteorites falls, a shadowy organization appears and erases all the evidence? This is the point where we have to ask, are we missing a key detail? So, was this a visitor, a weapon, or something we can't even imagine? Is the next rock already on its way? Let us know your theories below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more secrets the world isn't ready for.